They said they stood for truth. They said they stood for justice. They wrapped themselves in white robes. While their hands were dripping red, they played God with a halo made of rusted lies, and the world, it bowed, it clapped, it swallowed the poison and begged for more. I watched it all, quiet, still, but I saw everything. They called it order, but it was just well-dressed decay. They painted over the rot with gold, smiled through cracked teeth, promised peace while sharpening their knives behind closed doors. You know the kind. The ones who speak of morals, with blood still wet on their lips. The ones who judge you while hiding corpses under their thrones. They talk like saviors, but save no one. They speak in sermons, but choke you in silence. They told me to obey, to sit still, to wait my turn, to be patient while they feasted, while I starved. They told me to trust the system, the same system that spat on my name, twisted my pain, and called it just the way things are. No, I see it now. They never wanted justice. They wanted quiet. They wanted someone to blame while they stayed clean. I was the stain they couldn't wash out, the crack in their perfect glass. So they did what cowards always do. They smiled, and they buried me. But here's what they didn't understand. Burial isn't the same as death. Silence isn't surrender, and I was never one of them. They tried to drown me in filth, but I learned how to breathe underwater. They tried to break me with shame, but I wore it like armor. They tried to hide their rot behind righteousness, but I am the mirror now. I saw the wolves in clergy robes. I saw the kings with trembling hands. I saw the judges whose gavel was fear. And I see you too. You who nod along, you who look away, you who know it's rotten, but still protect the fruit. You cheered when they pointed at me. You smiled when they silenced me. You thought you were safe because you weren't the one bleeding. But listen closely. I am not your scapegoat. I am not your sacrifice. I am the reckoning you didn't expect. They wore masks. I became mine. And now I don't just see the rot. I am the fire that consumes it. So go ahead. Keep pretending. Keep clapping for the lies. Keep bowing to the polished crown. But know this, I saw the truth beneath the silk. I saw the decay behind their smiles. And I remember every single face. Let them dress it up. Let them preach their purity. Let them hide behind words like honor and law. I'll be right here, unmasked, unforgiving, unmoved. Because while they pretend to be righteous, I've become something far more dangerous. I've become real. They told me to smile, so I did. They told me to stay quiet, so I obeyed. They said, be the bigger person. So I swallowed the poison again and again, all while they danced in daylight, spitting filth behind velvet words, dressed in masks sewn from sympathy and silk. They applauded their own cruelty as long as it was dressed well, polished, packaged, pretty, and I was the display piece, the silent one, the one who took the hits with grace. Because screaming would make them uncomfortable. They said I was dramatic, said I was broken, said I was too much, but what they really meant was don't bleed where we can see it. So I learned to hemorrhage in silence, behind smiles, behind forced laughter, behind I'm fine. Every night I buried myself deeper, deeper beneath the expectations, deeper beneath the lies, deeper beneath the version of me they needed to believe in, because the truth was too ugly for their perfect little world. I lived in a coffin made of compliments. You're so strong. You always seem okay. You're handling it better than I expected. What they meant was, you're dying quietly. Good. Keep it that way. But I remember the nights, the way the darkness didn't judge me, the way silence wrapped around me like armor, the way pain taught me how to breathe underwater. Because when no one comes to save you, you either drown or you evolve. And I didn't drown. No, I grew gills in the grief, claws in the quiet, teeth in the trauma. While they slept peacefully in their delusions, I was mutating into something they'd never recognize, something they could never control, something they'll regret underestimating. They thought I was crumbling, but I was becoming. And when I rose, not with tears, but with fire in my mouth and thunder in my bones, they called it scary. Of course it scared them, because I didn't crawl out looking for mercy. I didn't rise to be liked. I came back, with no apologies, no filters, no leash. I let the lie bury me, and in that grave, I built a throne. So now when they whisper, "How did you survive that?" I smile, because I didn't survive. I transformed, and the version of me they buried, she's never coming back. Let them wonder, let them gossip, let them be impressed. They weren't there for the suffering, so they don't deserve to understand the strength. They clapped at the coffin, let them kneel before the storm. I was buried alive, but I rose like something they never prepared for. I didn't break. They wanted that. They waited for it. Every silence I gave them, they mistook for surrender. Every time I walked away, they thought I limped, but I wasn't crawling. I was calculating. They watched me like vultures circling, too early to strike, too late to care. They thought the storm outside would ruin me, but it was never the weather. It was what they built inside me, and what I was forced to burn. No, I didn't fall apart. I just stopped fitting into the pieces they handed me. Their rules, their lies, their glass smiles and poison hugs. I didn't lose myself. I shed myself. Like a snake in a pit of cowards. I learned to leave the skin behind, not because I was weak, but because it no longer fit the strength I was becoming. Let me be clear, there was no mercy in my metamorphosis, only necessity. Only survival. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't break. I shifted. I moved in silence, while they laughed in noise. I learned the rhythm of betrayal, and I danced through it with bloody grace. I gave them nothing, not even a reaction. And that was the beginning of everything. Because once you realize the cage was always made of opinion, you stop asking for keys, you set fire to the lock, and you walk out with your head high and your past burning behind you. Let them wonder how I survived. Let them whisper about the change. Let them call it madness. I call it evolution. I became sharp where I was soft, cold where I was warm, silent where I once begged to be heard. Because pain isn't weakness. Pain is pressure, and I am the diamond they tried to bury. They thought they were watching me crack, but I was crystallizing, becoming clear, becoming precise. And now I see everything, their intentions, their patterns, their fear. They don't fear monsters. They fear the people they tried to break, who didn't beg for mercy, but smiled and became something else. So no, I didn't break. I shifted, and that shift, it was seismic. It didn't just change me, it shook the ground they stand on. Let them feel it. Let them tremble, because now I move different, and I don't need their permission to never be the same again. They expected me to scream, to break, to beg, to claw at the dirt they buried me in, gasping for light, but I didn't. I studied, while they whispered lies in silk suits, while they mocked behind closed doors, while they passed judgment like gods. I was watching, learning, smiling. Do you know what real control looks like? Not revenge, not rage, not chaos. Control is standing in the fire and choosing not to burn anything but your past. They threw filth at me and called it justice. I turned it into armor. They spat venom in my name. I bottled it, labeled it poison, and served it back on crystal plates with silver forks and a smile sharp enough to bleed. You want to know how I handled it? I didn't throw punches. I threw silence. I didn't shout back. I let the echoes haunt them. I handled it with bloody grace, with restraint that scared them more than wrath. Because nothing is more terrifying than the one you tried to destroy, staring back at you calm, clean, and undefeated. They called it disgusting. I called it divine preparation. Each lie sharpened my perception. Each betrayal, a chisel carving the monster they couldn't contain. Each insult, music, a lullaby for the rebirth of a legend. They thought I'd sink. I became the current. They thought I'd kneel. I grew fangs. And now they're impressed. Now they tilt their heads like curious sheep, wondering how I did it, how I kept my hands clean while swimming through sewage. But they don't understand. Clean hands are a choice, not a privilege, not a miracle. Discipline, patience, precision. They wanted chaos. I gave them calculation. They came with mud. I painted a masterpiece. And now they applaud as if their aura redeems them, as if their admiration erases what they did. It doesn't. I didn't rise for them. I didn't endure for applause. I didn't handle it to impress anyone. I handled it because I refuse to be defined by the hands that tried to break me. I stayed silent long enough. Now every breath I take is louder than their screams ever were. This isn't grace. This is vengeance, dressed in elegance. This isn't forgiveness. This is composure, wielded like a blade. I handled it, not because I had to, but because I could. Let them be impressed. Let them whisper my name. Let them wonder how I survived the storm without drowning. But know this, I was the storm, and they were never prepared. Let them be impressed. Let them stare in awe. Let their mouths fall open like they've just seen God bleed. Because now, suddenly, they're amazed. They whisper in corners, saying, "How did they survive that? How did they stay calm? How did they not lose their mind?" But the question they should be asking is, why did they ever think I would break? You see, they love survivors, but they hate watching the survival. They can only clap after the fire dies down. They never stood with me when the smoke choked me. They see me now scarred, steady, unbothered, and they pretend they always believed. No, they doubted. They disappeared. They laughed. And now they applaud the very strength they tried to shame. They act like I trained for their approval, as if I ever needed them to believe in me, as if I bled for their applause. No, I didn't survive for them. I didn't keep going so they could feel comfortable clapping from a safe distance. I didn't endure hell so I could hear them say, "Wow, look how strong they are." I didn't survive to impress them. I survived to bury them. Let them be impressed. Let them praise what they couldn't comprehend. Let them study my silence and call it strategy. Let them dissect my calm and label it grace. They don't know the war I fought just to stand upright. They don't know how many nights I swallowed the screams just to appear composed. They don't know what it cost me to stay soft in a world that tried to make me cruel. And now that the blood has dried, now that I smile with teeth, not pity, now that I walk like thunder wearing skin, they want to celebrate. Now they call it inspiring. Now they want to learn from me. Now they want to know the secret. There was no secret. Only pain, only fire, only the decision to walk through it barefoot, unflinching, while they watch from the sidelines. They watch me drown, and when I didn't, when I rose dripping and furious, they said, "Wow, look how gracefully they swim." Let them choke on their admiration. Let them write poems about my endurance. Let them study my scars like scripture. Let them build statues of the strength they never helped forge. But remember this, I wasn't performing. This wasn't a show. This wasn't for applause. This wasn't for likes or nods or retweets. This was survival. This was rebirth. This was vengeance, written in silence and sealed in flesh. They thought I was performing. They thought I was pretending. But every quiet step I took was a declaration. Every tear I didn't show was a weapon. Every breath I chose to keep breathing was a warning. Now they look at me like I'm a masterpiece. No, I'm the reckoning. Let them be impressed. Let them whisper. Let them worship what they tried to destroy. Because I'm done pretending I ever needed their permission. They love the phoenix, but they forget it had to burn first. So no, I wasn't performing. I was transforming, and they missed the show. They called it disgusting. They said it out loud like they weren't the ones who created it, like their hands weren't the first to smear the filth, like I wasn't the one forced to crawl through it just to breathe. They looked at me and whispered, "That's the one. That's the one who came out of it." But never once did they ask, who put me there? They want the glory of my survival without the guilt of my suffering. They want the story without the stains. They want the phoenix, but they flinch at the fire. Let me say it plain. I didn't walk away clean. I walked away crowned. I wear every drop of that chaos like armor. The betrayal, the silence, the rot. It clings to me like a second skin now, and I don't scrub it off. I sharpen it. They say, "You handled it so well." Handled, I didn't handle it. I devoured it. I took the shame and spat back steel. I took the venom and became the fangs that they think I'm impressive now. Now that I smile, now that I speak calmly, dress sharply, bleed in private. But they weren't clapping when I was choking. They weren't impressed when I was dragging my own broken spine through their polite little hell. Now they look at me like I'm a miracle. But I know what I am. I am the aftermath. I am what happens when you leave someone in the dark long enough. They don't just grow fangs, they grow kingdoms. You called the situation disgusting. Then look at me. Stare straight into my eyes and understand what I became because of it. I am the situation. Handled, refined, unleashed. You thought I'd hide from it. I built a throne from it. You thought I'd wash it off. I bathed in it until it became holy. You thought I'd break under it. I built a spine from its weight. So when you tell me how impressed you are, save it. Your awe is a bandage over the bullet you fired. Too late. To hollow. I didn't become this to make you proud. I became this so you'd never forget what you did and what I did with it. Because the truth is simple. You wanted a tragedy. I became a weapon. You wanted collapse. I became a kingdom. You wanted shame. I became scripture. This isn't survival. It's declaration. This isn't healing. It's ascension. And I say this for every soul that was thrown into the same fire. For every outcast, every scapegoat, every silent witness. You are not dirty. You are not broken. You are the evidence of what they did and of what they could never destroy. So don't clean the blood. Crown yourself with it, because they called it disgusting. And now it walks upright, speaks thunder, and wears vengeance like velvet. Let them watch, let them whisper. But remember, this I am the disgusting situation, handled, and now I handle you.